I lay in my hospital bed, still groggy from chemotherapy, when my phone buzzed with the board meeting minutes. Motion passed 401 to temporarily relieve Benjamin Delacroix of CEO duties. The 4 votes, my wife and 3 children. The sterile white walls of the hospital room seemed to close in as I read the email again, certain I must be hallucinating from the treatment. The IV drip continued its steady rhythm, each drop seeming to mock me with its regularity while my world crumbled irregularly around me. But no, there it was in black and white. The company I'd built from nothing, the empire I'd created with my own hands, had just been stolen from me by the very people I'd built it for. What would you do if the family you built an empire for stabbed you in the back when you needed them most? Stay tuned to find out how I reminded them who really owns the throne. My name is Benjamin Delacroix, and at 62 years old, I thought I'd seen everything the business world could throw at me. I'd survived 3 major recessions, countless market disruptions, 2 hostile takeover attempts, and the dot-com bubble burst that killed bigger companies than mine. But I never thought I'd have to survive a coup from my own family. 30 years ago, I started Delacroix Industries in my garage, with nothing but a soldering iron, a revolutionary idea for microprocessor cooling systems, and a pregnant wife who believed in me when no one else did. Vanessa was my rock. Back then, working as a bank teller during the day, helping me assemble prototypes at night, all while carrying our first child. I remember those early days vividly. Our office was a corner of the garage that wasn't taken up by prototype parts. Our conference room was the kitchen table covered in technical drawings and business plans. Vanessa would come home from the bank exhausted and still find energy to review my patent applications. "We'll make it work, Ben," she'd say, her hands covered in thermal paste, as we worked side by side at our makeshift workbench. "This technology is going to change everything." And it did. Our cooling system increased processor efficiency by 40%, catching the attention of major tech companies. The first big break came when Intel called, not emailed, but actually called our home phone at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. "Mr. Delacroix, this is Jennifer Wong from Intel's procurement division. We've tested your prototype. We'd like to discuss an exclusive contract." Vanessa and I danced around our tiny living room that night, Marcus sleeping peacefully in his crib, oblivious to how his life had just changed forever. Within 5 years, we'd moved from the garage to a proper facility. Within 10, we were a major player in the tech industry. By year 20, Delacroix Industries was valued at $2 billion, with offices in 12 countries and over 5,000 employees. I brought my family into the business as they came of age, each in turn like some modern-day dynasty builder. Marcus, our eldest, showed a talent for operations and logistics. I remember his first day fresh out of Harvard Business School, standing in my office, wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. "Dad," he'd said, "I want to learn this business from the ground up." I'd smiled, proud of his attitude. "Good. You start in the warehouse tomorrow. 5 a.m. sharp." To his credit, he didn't complain. He worked those early shifts, learned every aspect of our supply chain, earned the respect of workers who'd been there since the garage days. I groomed him carefully, teaching him everything about manufacturing, inventory management, and the delicate art of supplier relationships. Isabel had her mother's eye for numbers, but chose marketing where she revolutionized our brand image. She was the one who convinced me to modernize our logo, to embrace social media, to sponsor tech conferences instead of just attending them. "Dad, we need to be where the conversations are happening," she'd argued during one heated meeting, not just in server rooms, but in Silicon Valley podcasts, in tech blogs, in the cultural zeitgeist. She was right. Our market share doubled in 3 years. Damien, our youngest, was a technical genius who took our R&D department to new heights. He had my passion for innovation, but combined it with a new generation's understanding of software integration. "Hardware and software aren't separate anymore, Dad," he'd explained, sketching circuit diagrams that looked like art. "They're dance partners. Our cooling systems need to talk to the processors, anticipate their needs." His AI-driven thermal management system became our flagship product. Vanessa became CFO, managing our finances with the same dedication she'd shown in those garage days. She transformed from that supportive bank teller into a financial wizard who could make numbers dance. Her risk management strategies saved us during the 2008 crisis, when our competitors were folding left and right. We were the picture-perfect family business featured in Forbes Business Weekly and countless success story articles. The Delacroix dynasty. They called us magazine covers, keynote speeches, business school, case studies. We had it all. Then 6 months ago, during a routine physical, my doctor found something concerning. "Ben, there's an irregularity in your blood work. I'd like to run some more tests." 3 weeks of tests. Specialists and increasingly worried looks from medical staff culminated in a diagnosis that felt like a physical blow. Pancreatic cancer, stage 1. Dr. Martinez, the oncologist, was direct but optimistic. "We caught it early. That's crucial with pancreatic cancer. The survival rate at this stage with aggressive treatment is actually quite good." How long? I asked, my mind already racing through business implications. Treatment will take about 6 months. Chemotherapy, radiation, possibly surgery. You'll have good days and bad days. Many of my patients continue working, albeit at a reduced capacity. I called a family meeting immediately. We gathered in the executive conference room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's skyline, the same room where we'd celebrated every major milestone in the company's history. I want to be transparent with all of you. I began looking at each of their faces. Marcus sat straight-backed, his HBS training showing in his posture. Isabel fidgeted with her phone. Damien doodled complex equations on his notepad. Vanessa held my hand under the table. The doctors are optimistic. With proper treatment, I should be back to full strength in 6 months. But during that time, I'll need to reduce my involvement. Marcus leaned forward, concern evident on his face. "Dad, whatever you need, we're here for you." Vanessa squeezed my hand. "We'll handle everything. You focus on getting better." Isabel actually put down her phone. "We've got this, Dad. You trained us well." Even now, I can't decide if they were already plotting or if the opportunity simply proved too tempting to resist. I propose Marcus steps in as interim CEO. I continued. "He knows the operations inside and out. I'll remain chairman and be available for major decisions, but day-to-day operations need steady hands." Everyone nodded in agreement. Isabel wiped away tears. Damien assured me the R&D roadmap was solid for the next year. It was a beautiful moment of family unity. Or so I thought. The first month went smoothly. I attended treatment sessions, joined important meetings virtually, and watched proudly as Marcus handled the daily challenges. But then subtle changes began. Vanessa started questioning my strategic decisions. "Maybe we should table this acquisition until you're feeling better." She'd say, her tone patronizing in a way I'd never heard before. Marcus began holding executive meetings without informing me. "Didn't want to bother you during treatment." He'd explain when I found out, "You need to focus on recovery." Isabel restructured the marketing department without consultation, firing people I'd personally mentored. Damien greenlit projects that bypassed our standard approval process, including a risky AI venture that violated our conservative R&D protocols. I chalked it up to growing pains to them, finding their footing in expanded roles. After all, I'd always encouraged initiative. Maybe I was being oversensitive. The cancer making me paranoid. The first real warning sign came during a virtual board meeting. I dialed in from my hospital room, still hooked to an IV, but determined to participate in the quarterly review. "Revenues up 3%, Marcus reported, "but I think we need to discuss some structural changes." "What kind of changes?" I asked. He glanced at Vanessa before continuing. "We've been analyzing our operations, and there's significant redundancy in middle management. I propose we streamline." "You mean layoffs?" I said flatly. "Restructuring," he corrected. "It's necessary for long-term health." Something in his tone set off alarm bells. This wasn't my son talking. This was pure corporate speak, the kind of soulless jargon I'd always taught him to avoid. "Let's table this discussion until I'm back in the office," I suggested. "With all due respect, Dad," Marcus replied, "the market won't wait for your recovery. We need to act now." The meeting continued, but I noticed something else. The subtle glances between family members, the way they seemed to be following a script I hadn't seen. Let us know where you're watching from today, and if you're new here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to join our growing community. Then came that Tuesday afternoon. I was halfway through a chemotherapy session, the drugs coursing through my veins, when my phone buzzed with a calendar notification. Emergency board meeting, 2 p.m. I hadn't called any meeting. I tried to dial in, but my access codes had been changed. My executive assistant, Patricia, who'd been with me for 15 years, wasn't answering her phone. Neither was Lawrence Chen, my lawyer. 3 hours later, the email arrived. 3. The subject line was clinical. Board Resolution 2024-15 Leadership Transition. My hands shook as I opened it. The resolution was wrapped in corporate language, but its meaning was clear. I was being removed as CEO effective immediately. The vote was 4-1 with only Lawrence dissenting. I called Vanessa immediately, my throat tight with more than just chemo side effects. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded when she answered. Her voice was cool, professional, the voice she used with difficult vendors, not her husband of 35 years. "Ben, we need to talk about what's best for the company. Your illness is affecting your judgment." "My judgment. I built this company from nothing. And we're grateful for that, but times change. The board feels fresh. Leadership is needed during this transitional period." "The board, you mean you and our children?" The vote was unanimous except for Lawrence. "We're not removing you permanently, just until you're well enough to resume full duties." "This is bullshit, Vanessa, and you know it. What happened to in sickness and in health?" There was a pause. "This isn't personal." "Ben, it's business." The line went dead. I immediately called Lawrence Chen. "Ben, I tried to stop them," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "They blindsided me, called an emergency meeting, citing urgent operational concerns. By the time I realized what they were doing, they already had the votes. How is this even legal? I own 51% of the company." There was a pause. "Actually, Ben, you might want to review the corporate structure we set up. Remember that holding company we created for tax purposes 5 years ago?" My blood ran cold. In my desire to include my family in the business to create a true dynasty, I'd transferred shares to them over the years. The holding company structure was complex, designed for tax efficiency and succession planning. "Lawrence, are you telling me? On paper, you directly control 30%. The holding company controls 21%, but its voting rights are determined by majority rule of its shareholders. Which are you, Vanessa, and the kids. So they used my own succession planning against me." "I'm afraid so. But Ben, there's something else you should know, something they don't." Over the next hour, Lawrence explained what I'd forgotten in the complexity of our corporate structure while I'd transferred significant shares to my family. The most valuable assets, our core patents and intellectual property, were held in a separate entity that I controlled entirely. It was a safeguard I'd put in place years ago on Lawrence's advice. "They have the company," he said, "but you have its soul." That night alone in my hospital room, I went through stages of grief, denial. Surely this was a misunderstanding. Anger. How dare they betray me when I was fighting for my life? Bargaining. Maybe if I stepped back voluntarily, they'd see reason. Depression. Was this how my legacy would end? But by morning, I'd reached acceptance and determination. They wanted to play corporate games. Fine. They forgot who taught them the rules. The next day, I had Lawrence file the paperwork to establish Phoenix Technologies, LLC. From my hospital bed, I began making calls. Dr. Martinez, I said to my oncologist, I need you to be honest with me. Can I work while undergoing treatment? She studied me carefully. Your type of cancer caught this early has an excellent prognosis. Many of my patients continue working, albeit at reduced capacity, but stress isn't helpful for recovery. What if working is what keeps me alive? She smiled slightly. I've seen that before. The fighters often do better than those who give up. We can adjust your treatment schedule to accommodate some work, but you must promise to tell me if it becomes too much. With medical clearance secured, I put my plan into motion. First, I reached out to our top engineers, the ones I'd personally mentored, who'd been with the company since the early days. Many were frustrated with the recent changes. Marcus is pushing for cheaper materials to boost quarterly profits. Kevin Park, our lead engineer, told me over coffee in the hospital cafeteria. He's undoing everything we built. Last week, he overruled my objections to a substandard component supplier. How would you like to build something new? I asked. Something without corporate interference. Kevin's eyes lit up. When do we start? Within a week, I had commitments from 12 key engineers. They agreed to moonlight working on my new project while maintaining their positions at Delacroix to avoid suspicion. Next, I contacted our major clients. Relationships I'd cultivated over decades. Ben Robert Huang, CEO of Technocore, exclaimed when I called, I heard you were sick. How are you holding up? Fighting fit, Robert. Actually, I wanted to discuss our cooling systems. Contract. Ah, yes. Your son Marcus called yesterday. Tried to renegotiate terms. Wanted to switch to cheaper components for a better margin. Not impressed with his approach, to be honest. What if I told you I'm starting something new? Something that will make our current technology look obsolete? There was a pause. I'd say I'm listening very carefully. The brilliance of my plan was its simplicity. Delacroix Industries had the contracts and infrastructure, but I had the patents, the relationships, and the vision. More importantly, I had something my family had forgotten. Existed the hunger that built the empire in the first place. I scheduled Phoenix Technologies' launch event for the same day as Delacroix Industries' annual shareholders meeting. The invitation list included every major tech CEO, journalist, and industry analyst. Meanwhile, I watched from afar as my family ran my company into the ground. Marcus slashed R&D budgets to boost short-term profits. He canceled 3 promising projects, including Damien's quantum cooling initiative that could have revolutionized the industry. Isabel launched a rebranding campaign that stripped away everything unique about our identity. Our distinctive blue logo, the one that had become synonymous with quality, was replaced with generic corporate minimalism. Damien surprisingly seemed to be having second thoughts. He started visiting me during my treatments, always looking guilty. Vanessa squeezed suppliers so hard that 3 long-term partners severed ties. She implemented draconian cost-cutting measures that destroyed employee morale. They were destroying in months what had taken me decades to build. 3 months into my treatment, I was stronger than expected. The chemotherapy was working, and my secret project gave me purpose. I'd lost weight and hair, but gained clarity. Lawrence kept me informed about Delacroix Industries. They're planning to take the company public. He reported during one of our strategy sessions, Goldman Sachs is handling the IPO. Perfect timing. I smiled. Let them count their chickens. There's more, he continued. They're cooking the books. Ben moving R&D expenses to capital expenditures, recognizing revenue early. It's all technically legal, but it's not honest, I finished. They learned that from business school, not from me. The night before the launch, I received an unexpected visitor. Damien stood in my hospital room doorway, looking uncomfortable. Dad, I wanted to check on you. Come in, son. He sat beside my bed, avoiding eye contact. How's the treatment going? Well enough. How's the company? He shifted uncomfortably. It's different. Marcus keeps pushing for changes. Mom's focused on the IPO. Isabel's barely speaking to anyone. And you. I miss the way things were. I miss working with you. He finally met my eyes. I think we made a mistake. I studied my youngest son. Did you vote to remove me, Damien? He looked down. Yes, Marcus convinced us it was temporary, that you'd want us to protect the company while you recovered. But now you see it wasn't about protecting anything except their ambitions. He nodded miserably. I found something, he said, pulling out a USB drive. Marcus has been negotiating with Titan Corp. He's planning to sell the company after the IPO. Titan Corp, our biggest competitor, known for buying companies and gutting them for parts. Why are you telling me this? Because this isn't what you built. This isn't what you taught us. He handed me the drive. Everything's on there. Email chains, financial projections, deal terms. What do you want, Damien? I want to make things right. The launch event for Phoenix Technologies was held at the Seattle Convention Center. I'd chosen the venue carefully, the same place where Delacroix Industries had unveiled its first major product 25 years ago. I arrived early. My first public appearance since beginning treatment. I'd lost 30 pounds and my hair, but I wore my best suit and stood tall. The banner behind the stage read, Phoenix Technologies, rising from the ashes of innovation. The room filled quickly. Tech journalists whispered, recognizing the significance of the venue. Industry leaders took their seats, curiosity evident on their faces. At precisely 10 a.m., I took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. 3 months ago, my family voted to remove me as CEO of Delacroix Industries. They thought I was too weak to fight. They were wrong. The room went silent. Today, I'm introducing Phoenix Technologies and our first product, the Helios cooling system. It's 60% more efficient than anything currently on the market, including Delacroix's best offerings. I clicked a remote and technical specifications appeared on the screen. Murmurs rippled through the audience as they recognized the breakthrough nature of the technology. But more than a product launch, this is a statement about values, about what happens when profit becomes more important than principles. When ambition overrides loyalty. When family forgets what family means. As I spoke, my phone buzzed Marcus. Then Vanessa. Then Isabel. I ignored them all. Effective immediately, Phoenix Technologies will be offering exclusive contracts to any client willing to transition from Delacroix systems. We're also extending employment offers to any Delacroix employee who values innovation over office politics. I paused, looking directly at the cameras. And for those wondering about Delacroix Industries' upcoming IPO, I suggest you ask the board about their negotiations with Titan Corp. Ask them about the real reason they removed their founder. The presentation concluded with a live demonstration that left the audience applauding. As I stepped off stage, my phone showed 47 missed calls. Robert Huang approached immediately. Ben, that was impressive. Technocore is in. Other CEOs followed suit. Within an hour, I had verbal commitments representing 70% of Delacroix's client base. Meanwhile, across town, the Delacroix Industries shareholders meeting was descending into chaos. News of my announcement had reached them, and rumors about the Titan Corp deal were spreading like wildfire. That evening, I received a call from Lawrence. They want an emergency board meeting tonight. Set it up, I replied. It's time to end this. The Delacroix boardroom had never felt so cold. My family sat on one side of the table, their faces a mix of anger, fear, and desperation. I sat alone on the other, Lawrence beside me. How could you do this? Marcus demanded. You're destroying everything we built. Everything we built. I laughed. Son, you haven't built anything. You've only torn down what I created, and you were planning to sell the ruins to Titan Corp. His face went pale. How did you know? Because, unlike you, I still have people loyal to what this company stands for. Vanessa tried diplomacy. Ben, please, we can work this out. Come back to the company. We'll reverse the vote. Too late for that. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, you'll find documentation showing that the patents Phoenix Technologies is using belong to me personally, not Delacroix Industries. You'll also find resignation letters for all 4 of you, which you'll sign tonight. You can't force us out of our own company, Isabel protested. Actually, I can. I produced another document. This is a notification of patent infringement. Every Delacroix product currently uses technology that belongs to me unless you license it from Phoenix at terms I set. You'll have to cease operations immediately. The color drained from their faces as they realized the implications. But there's another option, I continued. Phoenix Technologies will acquire Delacroix Industries. The company remains intact, but under new management, you'll each receive a generous severance package and the opportunity to apply for positions at levels appropriate to your actual abilities, not your surnames. This is blackmail. Marcus spat. No, son. This is business, the kind you claimed to understand when you voted me out. They signed the papers. What choice did they have? The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting at Delacroix Industries. Standing before 5,000 employees, many of whom I'd hired personally, I announced the merger. Delacroix Industries isn't dying. I declared it's evolving. Those who embraced the recent changes for personal gain will find no place here. Those who remained loyal to our values. Welcome to Phoenix Technologies. The restructuring took 3 months. Marcus left the industry entirely, his reputation destroyed by the exposure of the Titan Corp deal. Isabel moved to New York, taking a mid-level marketing position at a startup. Vanessa and I divorced quietly. She retained her personal wealth but lost her position and influence. Only Damien remained. He came to my office a week after the merger, resume in hand. I don't expect special treatment, he said. I just want a chance to prove myself. I studied him carefully. Why should I trust you? Because I learned something important. I watched you build an empire from nothing, and I watched how quickly it crumbled. Without your vision. I understand now that leadership isn't about titles or voting rights. It's about earning respect every single day. I hired him as a junior R&D team leader. He had to earn his way up, but he did through talent and hard work, not nepotism. A year later, cancer-free and stronger than ever, I stood before the tech industry's annual awards ceremony, accepting the Innovator of the Year award for Phoenix Technologies. They say success is the best revenge, I told the audience. But that's not why I did this. I did it because sometimes you have to burn everything down to rise from the ashes. Sometimes you have to lose everything to remember what really matters. I paused, looking at Damien in the audience. And sometimes your greatest betrayal becomes your greatest lesson, not just for you, but for those who betrayed you. Today, Phoenix Technologies is valued at $5 billion. We've revolutionized the cooling industry and expanded into renewable energy systems. The old Delacroix headquarters now houses our charitable foundation, which provides resources for entrepreneurs battling serious illnesses. I've remarried Dr. Sarah Martinez, my oncologist. She understands the value of fighting for life in all its forms. We run the foundation together, helping others who face corporate betrayal during personal crises. The Phoenix Technologies lobby features a bronze sculpture of a phoenix rising from flames. The plaque beneath it reads, "From the ashes of betrayal, we rise stronger." Every new employee hears the story of how the company was born. Not as a cautionary tale about family business, but as a reminder that true strength comes from adversity and true loyalty is proven in the darkest hours. Has your family ever betrayed your trust in business? Share your story below, because sometimes our greatest failures become our most powerful successes. And remember, blood may be thicker than water, but loyalty is thicker than both. Build your empire on the right foundation, and no betrayal can truly destroy it. They can take your title, your office, even your company, but they can never take your ability to rise again.